let's say Trump, for example, his campaign run, the only reason why I voted for Trump was because he said no more globalism. That was it. I didn't care about the wall or taxes and none of that crap. I want someone to stand up to the military industrial complex. Tulsi, same way. She's saying she's going to stop all this. People saying no, she's not. I mean, who knows? But it seemed to me Trump is not the same Trump who ran his campaign. He looks like a very sad, not Trump. It's kind of weird. I don't know, maybe you think he's always been in on it or not, but to me, he looks like a different person. Like when he bombed Syria, when he did all these, it seems like he didn't want to, but he had no choice. And even if he did want to change everything, it's him versus everyone else. It's not going to happen. It's like this whole system is so corrupted. And I wanted to ask you, how exactly does this corruption work? Like you mentioned in a video interview a long time ago that AIPAC would actually give you papers to sign your allegiance to Israel or something like that, right? And that was one of your waking up moments, correct? So it's pledges, it's what, but they can't give you money directly. So what do these organizations do? How do they corrupt people? They threaten them. What do they do?
Well, I would draw attention to my website. There is I think it's under op-eds, where Gus Savage's speech on the floor of the House is there. And thank goodness he was also one of those that was targeted by AIPAC and the Israel lobby, because of course, the Israel lobby is far bigger than just AIPAC. And the Israel lobby extends everywhere. And he explained the mechanism so carefully and clearly. And so basically what happened was he was, as a member of Congress is supposed to do, he was dipping into foreign policy, and he enraged the Israel First people. And so now what you have is, in my opinion, is that the United States is basically controlled by people who love Israel more than they love the United States. And how does that manifest itself? It manifests itself in something that I said at one time. I said the best way to describe what actually happened to me is that there were a group of people who asked me to love Israel before I was going to be able to love Stone Mountain, right, Georgia. That's the way it works, is that you have to demonstrate your love for Israel before you are allowed to do a pittance for your district. Now you can do for yourself. And so you will see many members of Congress who have done very well for themselves. But you also have to do for Israel. And if you don't do for Israel, then you get, they get you gone. So now, how does that, what did Gus Savage say? So Gus Savage was targeted for defeat from the Congress. And so they ran someone against him. Same thing happened to me. Same thing happens to, all of us. And then that person begins to get a lot of money. That person got money from everywhere. And before you know it, the challenger has more money than the incumbent, which is rare. I mean, you can count the number of times that happens. Then the challenger not only gets the financial resources, but they get the media resources, because the media is going to be all in favor of the challenger and will point out everything, every nose hair of the incumbent, right? And so, and the people just get tired of it, and eventually they give in, and that's what happened. But Gus Savage was able to defeat the Israel Firsters on the first time that he was targeted, but he was not able to defeat them in the second time. And so then what he said was, he was wondering, he would look at his opponent's FEC reports, and it was the New Jersey Garden Club. I'm paraphrasing, but it was like that. The New Jersey Garden Club is giving campaign contribution at the maximum amount to a candidate who's running in Chicago. What is that, right? Well, what that is exactly what happens. So money from all over the country is funneled into the uh, candidate that has made a commitment to be Israel first. And in my case, to show you how important this is, Rahm Emanuel was the one that went around and recruited someone black to run against me. And that Iraq war that you went into 2 times, well, if I had not been challenged by them, if they had not been successful in ousting me, we would be having a different conversation today, because the Iraq war would not have been funded. So basically what happened, they counted their war votes. They knew that the community, the U.S. total political community, was geared up against these wars. And I was out there in the forefront. And so I was going to be a sure no vote when the time came to vote to finance the Iraq war. What they did was they got rid of me. My replacement went in and voted for the Iraq war. Now, it takes the financing for the Iraq war. It takes 218 votes to pass any bill in the House of Representatives. And guess what the vote was for the Iraq war financing? It was exactly 218. Had I been there, the bill would have failed. Wow. You would not have had the 2 terms that you did in Iraq.
That's crazy. And see, that's what they have to do. They take money from all over the country. These are probably Israeli first-tier organizations pretending to be the golf club in New Jersey and the Chicago, whatever. And then they send them all there. And then you say media resources. I'm assuming the slanders start coming in, the ADL, SPLC, anti-Semite, neo-Nazi, bigot, whatever terms thrown around. Slanders begin, and then eventually the people are like, I can't vote for her. She's an anti-Semite. And then they just go for the other person. Because that's what I see constantly. And by the way, the sycophants in Washington, I remember Nancy Pelosi said, we have to support Israel even if America was crumbling. And I was like, what? How is this a representative of my country? It's so crazy. And even Jan Crenshaw with his missing eye, shilling for war. I'm like, bro, you lost your eye, dude. Don't you have any vendettas against these people? But I can keep on going with these fake representatives out there. But so let me ask you this question, because actually I do have 2 super chats I want to knock out real quickly from Matthew. Thank you very much. Okay. So quickly, if you can answer these. Miss McKinney, thank you for standing strong for the truth. Your sacrifice was not in vain, as many now are questioning the corruption. Are you hopeful? Is his first question, so you can go ahead and answer that.
Well, am I hopeful about what?
I guess the movement of the awakening. I don't know what he means exactly.
Well, okay. Let's take a stab at that. I continue to remain hopeful, but it's hard. It's hard. I remain hopeful because that's my sort of natural disposition. But it's hard at the same time to remain hopeful, because we just see failure all around us.
Right. Yeah. All right. So we have James Trafficant, good guy. He was woke. How many others are woke to this, but are perhaps too afraid, or they're totally they're just traitors? They know exactly what's happening, but they don't give a damn. So in your experience, how many other Congress people are actually woke like you and me, but are just quiet or are scared or don't have the support? What's your experience on that?
Well, that's very difficult to.
You don't have to name them. You don't have to name them if you know them. I mean, but.
Yeah, let me give you an example. There was one member of Congress who she discovered that she was compromised. And the way it happened was, she's a member of Congress, she's very busy, she's got Federal Election Commission rules and regulations to follow. And so she gets a person who volunteers and says, "Oh, I'll help you with that. I'll help you with all of your reporting and that sort of thing." And so that's what happened. And then before you knew it, this particular member of Congress had a volunteer who was doing her campaign taxes and, getting all of the financial records in order. And then they also got her personal records in order. And then when she realized it, that particular assistant knew everything about her. And so this is the kind of thing that I personally, and that member of Congress is still a member of Congress and is afraid to death of doing anything that goes against or that could be construed as being anti the, sort of Israel first line, because they have everything that they need to know about that particular member of Congress and her family life. They've got it.
So it's essentially like the whole Epstein operation. I had a guy named Ryan Dawson come on. He talked about that. That was basically to entrap our politicians in sex scandals and say, hey, we have a tape of you with this little girl. You better shut your mouth. He also mentioned that there's a divide between these ruling classes. Like there's Bibi Netanyahu types, and then there's the George Soros types, and they're trying to get that power, even though because through different ideologies. He said it's like cartel wars. It's like, imagine the cartels.
Well, yeah. To make it more sort of to ground it even more, you've got the Hillary Clinton type. And you've got the Donald Trump type. And so it's not that Donald Trump is against the Israel firsters. He's got his own Israel firsters that he brought with him, which is part of his
family, problem. Jared Kushner.
And exactly. So, and they're fighting each other. And they're literally fighting to the death for which of those factions will be able to have their finger on the nuclear button. That's a very scary thought, because anyone who knows anything about these people understands the Samson option. And the Samson option, I believe, has been activated. And I do believe that the whole open borders immigration crisis in Europe, and I believe that now you've got a different kind of, the Samson option basically was formulated around nuclear weapons, but you can weaponize anything. And now you weaponize the people who live in those shithole countries that you've created.
Yeah, I've been saying that for years, that they're taking these poor people, who've been obliterated by our military industrial complex and just sending them to Europe. And of course they're mad at the Europeans, and they probably do rape the women, and there probably is crime because they're like, screw these Europeans, they bomb my country, these Americans, it's like crazy. So it's a big disaster, and frankly, I've been saying it. They're weaponized migrants in a sense, of course they want a better life. I mean, obviously they don't want to starve in their country that is being bombarded, and then but unfortunately they don't mingle quite well with the people there. But
now I want to draw your attention and the attention of your audience to a paper that I wrote, particularly about this particular matter. And basically, what did I call it? It's on my website, and I call it Chickens Coming Home to Roost. Is the United States now being victimized? Is chickens coming home to roost? But the question that I pose is the United States now being is hybrid warfare being used against the United States now in the same way that the United States has used hybrid warfare against other countries? And of course, I think it's very clear that a kind of hybrid warfare is being waged against the United States. And so that also requires us to think in a different way, to act in a different way, to practice coalitional politics as best we can, and to talk to each other and to find some ways in which we can cooperate, because honestly, the United States will cease to be the United States that we can envision it becoming if these people continue to have control. And I don't see them losing control. I mean, and you see that Hillary was bad, but that set of people that come with Trump, they're just as bad in a different kind of way. But still, you know, where is America first? Where is our infrastructure? Where is our healthcare? Where is our housing? Where is our Bill of Rights? Where is the Constitution? You name, you know, it's every aspect of our lives, and politics does control every aspect of your life.